Hello everyone, my name is Bhavesh Kumar. I'm with Early Educators and today we're going to be going over file input and output. Now if you work on a computer, you've probably interacted with files quite a bit. But as a computer science developer, you should really learn how to interact with these files properly using a programming language. Now to create a file, it's pretty easy to create a file using Python. The simplest thing you can do is write a file object name. So I can put any arbitrary name I want. So here I write fopen, as in file open, and simply write open, and in here I'd write the name of the file. So this would work for any file that's already created, or if it's not created, then it would create one. So for example, there's no file called sample.txt, so if I write sample.txt, and here I write it in the write mode because I want to write it eventually, write on this file eventually, and run this, you can see on the left that there's a new file created, sample.txt. Now if I open this file, you can see it's pretty much empty because I haven't done anything with this file yet. But with this fopen, you can see that we've created a new file object. Now these file objects have some arbitrary utilities. For example, if I wanted to know the name of the file, I can write fopen dot name. Simply get the name of the file. If I wanted to know which mode I opened it in, I can write fopen dot mode. Now, as you can see, this W is one of the modes that you can open a file in. For example, there are many other modes. One is called R, as in read, so that would be read. There's another one called A, as in append, to add to a file. And the one we opened in now is W, to write a file. So every time you use the W option, it basically rewrites everything on the file from the start. But append adds to the file. So if you have something written on this already, for example, blah, and I open this into the W mode, then this text inside of the sample text file will be overwritten by whatever rewrite inside this fopen statement. Now there are other modes such as R+, which is for reading and writing, W+, which is for reading and writing and overwriting every time it opens. There's also A+, there's writing in binary, reading in binary, appending in binary, and many other things, but we won't be discussing that in this video. Now, every time we open a file, an important part of reading a file is also closing a file. So we need to make sure that we close this file. So we would write fopen.close. Now to check if we've closed this file, you'd write file.closed. So it's going to print out true and false respectively because it's not closed yet. And then we write fopen.close, which closes the file. And since we print out if it's closed or not, it prints out a true value. Now what this close function does is it first deletes everything that we haven't written and saved and closes the file so you can't access it anymore. For example, if I try to read it after I close the file, it's not possible. There's a better way to reduce the line of code than just saying fopen and fclose again and again. We can automate this using the with statement. So we can write with open, and here we write the name, for example, sample text. And we want to write on it, so we just write W. And here we write as fopen. Now, basically what this one line of code does is it opens the file, and everything that's indented inside of this is the thing that we do when the file is open. And if we write a statement outside of this condition, then the file is closed and you can't access it anymore. So we're basically automating the process of opening and closing a file because it might be cumbersome and might make your code a little bit cluttery. So if I want to write onto a file, I would do simply fopen dot write, and here I'd write text, for example, Bhavesh. And now it automatically closed for us. You can't see anything in the terminal right here, but if we open this file, you can see that it says my name, Bhavesh. Now, obviously, if you try to write again, for example, if I try to write Kumar here, again, you can see that this Bhavesh has been overwritten with Kumar to show what the write function does. Now with this, you can simply write as many things as you want. For example, if I want to make a list with all the names, I can just write something like Bob and keep writing the name. For example, if I wanted to put a list of names, let's create a list first. So the list is names, and here we create a list of Bob, Joe, Jack, Jill, John, Joy, James. All right, and here we want to write all of the things inside of that list. So I would go something like for name in names, and inside here I'd write fopen dot write, and here I'd write name plus and then backslash slash n, so that it's in every line. Now if I run this, you can see we have a list of names. Now to read a file, what we're going to do is first we're going to open this inside the R mode. So we'd write sample text inside R, and you can simply read it by writing lines equals fopen dot read. Okay, if I print this, you can see it reads everything inside of that. But what if the file is huge? For example, it has 1,000,000 characters inside of one file, and we don't want to read everything inside of it. One thing we can do is read by characters. For example, if I only want to read the first 3 characters, I can just write read 3, and that would just print out Bob. If I only want to read the first 10 characters, it would read Bob, Joe, and the first 2 letters of Jack, and print those out. What if I want to read line by line? I just write read line. Here, it would read the first line and print it out. If I wanted to read all the lines and save them inside of a list, I can write read lines, and I have a list of all the things inside of my file. So I can use these methods to read and write the things that I want, and in such a way that I can get just enough so that the memory that we use is not too much, and the time that we run this program isn't too much as well. So we keep a balance between efficiency and memory. Now, since we can read and write inside of the file, there are many other features to this file object as well. For example, if I were looking for a way to read the first 3 characters, and then let's say I want to go back to the top, I can just write fopen dot seek, and here make a character place where I want this cursor to be. For example, if I write seek 0, and then I do this again, you can see that it's going to print out the same thing 2 times instead of 2 different things. So if I run this, I get Bob and Bob again. But if I don't, do the seek, I'm gonna get Bob and some space and then another 2 characters. So you can use this seek function to go back and forth, and you can use this append function to add to different things, and you can do many other things with files. Now, most of the times, the files you're going to get inside of a computer program are not going to be TXT files because barely any people use the TXT files. A lot of the times they use something called the CSV files. And what CSV files are comma separated values. Now for CSV files, there's this special package called CSV in Python. Now, if I import this CSV, and I try to open our CSV file, which is a Pokemon file. And as you can see, all these values are separated by commas. So there's number, name, type, HP, attack, defense, and things like that. If I want to open them as a CSV, I import the CSV file and then I do the same thing as if it were a normal text file. For example, I'd write with open. And here I'd write Pokemon.csv. And I want to read, so I just write R. And with that, I can read all the files as F. I can read all the files and save them in line as I do line equals csv.read reader. And here I pass in this F. And now if I print that, I can see so if I print line by line for line in lines, and I make this lines, print line, I can see all the various lists for each line. So what this does is the CSV reader takes the file and creates a list for each line. So we have a list of the header, which is name, type 1, total, HP, attack, and we have a list of everything else. So for example, if I only wanted the name of everything, I'd write 1. Since it's a list, it just gave me the name, for example. If I run it, it's going to give me just the names of all the Pokemons that are in this list. Now, of course, since the CSV file is so huge, it takes my computer a little while to run through all the values inside of the CSV file. But let's say this list is not enough, and you want it in a way where if I search for example, the name of this Pokemon, then I should get the name Pidgeot. So I want to save this as a dictionary. So the CSV has another great function called dict reader, which basically reads everything as a dictionary. So if you run this now, you can see that every single value has a header attached to it. For example, if I look at this one and just this one, you can see the number is 50, the name is Diglett, and all these stats are assigned to one key value. For example, the type 1 is ground, type 2 is none, and HP is 10. So if I wanted to access something, for example, I wanted to access name, I can just run this and see everyone's name. So now instead of accessing each value with a certain index, we can access each value with a key and a dictionary value. This is very useful if you want to use this as a data frame and do something like figure out which is the strongest Pokemon. So I can go like if, so I can do something like num equals 0. If num is greater than, let's see, num is, if it's greater than line, and here I want the HP. Let's see if I spelled this right. Yes, it's called HP. So if I want the HP, then I would say num equals line HP. And just like that, we can figure out who is the strongest Pokemon. And if I print out print num, and that's the highest HP any Pokemon has. And like that, we can find out the strongest Pokemon, which is, let's see, name. So the strongest Pokemon is Wigglytuff. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed and learned something. Maybe you can like, comment, and subscribe so you can keep up with all the early educators videos that come out next week or soon. Thank you.